decent food. We are providing 3 square meals for patients in the hospital, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we all know traditionally, KUS is very, very instrumental in providing breakfast in our local traditional Gambian food. So we at the hospital are also providing breakfast for the patients, and this KUS from this fund, contributes a lot towards, feeding the patients.
Since sustainability of the milestone appeared to be the primary focus of the hospital hierarchy, as well as the residents of Bansang, a tree planting exercise therefore became imminent, and recently the hospital garden was planted with 700 cashew trees.
Now, if you look at the economic value of cashew, there are three things you can derive from the cashew. The cashew nut, the fruit, and even the juice. And all these things could be of high nutritious value for patients admitted in the hospital.
Of the 700 seedlings planted, 300 of them were purchased by the Gambia Experience, 300 by the Hospital Staff Association, and 100 by the Forestry Department, the providers of the technology for the planting exercise.
We have been working with the Forestry Department from the inception to now. They advise that for the cashew seedlings, there need to be 5 meters at least between the seedlings. Sometimes you can go up to 7 meters, but at least 5. Looking at the land area, we thought 5 meters apart.
Governor Gani Toure, also the chairman of the Bansang Hospital Board, whose leadership this initiative was conceived, urged the hospital management to nurse the seedlings so as to eventually realize the worth of their toil. For planting a tree is one thing, but nurturing it is another.
We have been planting trees. The president has said it. He wants every year for the people to plant 1 million trees. It's good to plant 1 million trees, but how many of those trees will survive? Because they are not taken care of. So let's make sure that we take care of these things. You got to spend resources, spend energy, spend time to plant these trees, and then at the end of the day, you forget about them.
The Alcalo of Bansang, whose people as well as security personnel posted in the area participated immensely in the exercise, did not only recognize the significance of the exercise for the welfare of the hospital, but also donated a diagnostic machine to the hospital.
The government cannot afford to feed all these patients. So the staff, we have to thank them very much for whatever they are doing for the hospital. I'm also very proud of the staff of the hospital.
Though the Bansang Hospital Staff Association's contribution, plus produce from the hospital farms, feeds the patient, the bulk of the funding comes from Anita Smith, a British philanthropist, nicknamed the Mother of the Motherless. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
The outgoing FAO country representative today bid farewell to the President, His Excellency, Chief Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh, at a ceremony held at the State House. Dr. Babagana Ahmadu is leaving the Gambia for Namibia after the end of his 5-year tenure in Banjul. We hope to bring you details of that in our next news bulletin. We have more news on stories that are happening outside of the Gambia after this break. We'll be right back.
Uhuru, more than a tablet.
RLG, proudly yours.
Welcome back. As the international community awaits a tougher response to the Syrian crisis, a UN weapons inspection team has come under fire on the ground in Syria. The UN convoy was headed to a Damascus suburb to inspect the site of a chemical attack when it was deliberately shot at. No casualties have been reported, but the Syrian government has denied any involvement. Let's look at this report for more on that.
I tell you, Christy, is that the first vehicle in that convoy of the chemical weapons investigation team was deliberately shot at by unidentified snipers in the buffer zone area. In other words, as they left government-controlled territory and were heading in towards territory that is not held by them. Now, there were multiple shots. We don't know how many exactly. What we do know is that the first vehicle was hit to the extent that it's no longer serviceable. The team themselves, the team members, they are safe and they return to the government checkpoint, and they will return to the area after replacing the vehicle.
Do you have a time frame on that?
Not at this moment, no. But what's really important here is that this team has a job to do. They are there to collect samples, to interview people, to try to get to the bottom of what happened on the 21st of August, to be able to say what happened. Were chemical weapons used? Was some kind of nerve agent used? To be able to do their work, they obviously need to be able to do it safely and certainly not under fire. And it's clearly outrageous that this team, they are obviously unarmed, came under fire as they set out to carry out this mission.
Still on the Syrian crisis, a momentum is building in the U.S. as officials put the blame of chemical weapon use squarely on government forces, saying there is no evidence that any of the opposition or rebel forces used chemical weapons. Here's more from Chris Lawrence in the Pentagon, which could consider military action.
The bombs are falling, the accusations flying. Now the pressure's on President Obama to defend his red line on chemical weapons, which rebels claim killed more than 1,000 people in Syria.
But we cannot sit still. We've got to move, and we've got to move quickly.
U.S. and British officials claim Syrian forces shelled the site of Wednesday's attack so much it corrupted any evidence the UN might find this week. A U.S. official tells CNN behind the scenes, multiple international sources have already collected evidence from that site. The official says the sources took tissue samples and other evidence shortly after the attack, and it was being analyzed in secure locations. That's why the White House tone changed so quickly. From Fridays, get the inspectors in, to Sundays, it's too late to be credible. And it's why an administration official sounded so confident in saying there is little doubt at this point that a chemical weapon was used by the Syrian regime against civilians. The president's newly updated options include cruise missiles launched from one of 4 Navy destroyers in the Mediterranean Sea, or jets firing weapons from outside Syrian airspace.
And, we are prepared to exercise whatever option if he decides to employ one of those options.
And we move on to our next international story. In the Indian city of Mumbai, police are advancing the manhunt for other suspects in the gang rape of a young photojournalist. A 5th suspect is under custody, and officials say the girl's condition is presently stable and improving at a local hospital. There is fear and outrage over the safety of women in India following a deadly gang rape 3 years ago. Marita Nesi Kapoor talks to 3 women who shared their thoughts and their fears.
3 different walks of life. I have with me an activist, a journalist, a student. They share a city, Mumbai, and a deep sense of disappointment at recent events here. Gayatri, let me begin with you. When you first heard about the Mumbai rape incident, did you think this could be me?
Absolutely. You know, the girl in Delhi, this girl in Bombay, you know, they're all, it could be any of us. And so suddenly, you know, we're all sort of paying attention. But every day you read the papers and something horrible has happened in some village or in some slum and things like that.
It's always been there.
Yes, and now it's at our doorstep.
Does Mumbai's police force instill a sense of confidence in you all?
Yes. To a certain extent, they do instill confidence.
But I don't think I would feel safe in Bombay, even if the police force were the most efficient police force around.
Why not?
I genuinely feel that the problem is
It's a mindset issue, and I think that the problem is one of respect.
You spend so much time counseling